Production die rolls were all average, which generally is a good thing because that's what you're planning for, right? For the Northeast, that's still cutting it close. The premium they had to pay last turn to survive, well, their actual output is only 34 and they have 33 people. They may need some more food or consumer products. Probably food. They'd like to keep. There's a good chance that they will make consumer products in their industrial sector, which will eat up some more of their food. In the Southwest, though, although they got normal production, they got the same amount they got last time, 55. Now, they have 5 more people to feed, but that still means a significant surplus. They've put a lot of energy into their food production here. We've got a lot of laborers there, mainly because their metal and industrial hasn't been that good, and they've been getting advantages too. The mechs they were able to score last turn, etc. So they're becoming the breadbasket, and sort of, I don't know, maybe creating a symbiotic relationship that can't easily be broken. Now, they have the resource issue where they have a problem with the resources. However, because they have higher production in food now, they can kind of make demands on the Northeast, who maybe is consistently going to be a food buyer. I got to do secondary production now. All right, the Southwest kind of queried the Northeast. Hey, what are you going to need? Because you're short on food. Figure out your production first. And the Northeast said, yeah, I'm okay on food. I'm going to need consumer points. I'm going to go all out on mechs, and gosh, I didn't mark them. Looks like they should have 10 of them available for trade. Both the Far West and the Midwest, more balanced approaches, although the Midwest is desiring more consumer points too. The Southwest just cranked them out. They now have 28 of them sitting around. Now, if they can spend some of those and get some mechs, they can boost forward, and they may be able to help other people also boost forward. The real question is, who's gonna be getting what? The Northeast definitely badly needs another handful because they only have 1 consumer point sitting around. They built none. They're relying on the Southwest to provide them. But now there's going to be a market and a trade available, and well, the Southwest could use some cash, actually. So that may be a nice sweetener to any deals involving them. Northeast definitely is not thrilled with the trade they were pushed into this time. 3 consumer points for 3 mechs. Remember last time, I think less mechs produced more consumer points, plus they had to kick in $5. Basically, this is the, hey, I gave you a little sample last time. This time it's going to cost you a little, market value, right? Market value is a matter of you're dependent. You need them. You've been starving 2 turns in a row. You haven't met your food quotas 2 turns in a row. I can't just, float you good deals. Nobody else has the consumer points really to spare for this option. So the Midwest could conceivably have made a better deal. Maybe, actually, I think it was, I don't remember. Last time, I think it was just food that they sent over, which was like 7 for 4 or something. I don't know. Anyway, the way this worked out, it worked out well for the Southwest. The Northeast is not really thrilled with it. They want to become independent, but they don't have an easy way to do so. They don't have the consumer points to go out and start gaining territory, and they also don't have the production to support their food right now. Now, they'll boost their mechs up a little bit, but they're not going to get there. One of the big factors to this whole deal was, wow, 29, that's a lot, right? Now I'm down to 25, but that's still not quite enough for me to bump the farm sector up. So I've got to save up for another turn before I can get that. Now, if I can get the farm sector up there, and part of that may be actually relieving some laborers from there. I've got 30 laborers in there and 25 mechs. Now, that produces 55. I need 50. So it's not like I have a whole lot free. I do need 50, don't I? Yeah, I need 50. So I'm not producing a whole lot of extra food here. So I don't know if I can really afford to drop labor out of the farm sector. I'd like to do that because it would make it cheaper to reach that level 2, double my mech investment over there, and really start cranking food hard. If somebody starts doing that, really gets their economy rolling, then they can kind of bootstrap the other people, to their own gain, of course. But, you know, if there's this huge quantity of consumer supplies coming out, well, everybody else can kind of focus on the things they're better at producing. Now, unfortunately, the Northeast is not particularly good at making mechs, although they've managed to shift their economy in that direction. They're better than the Southwest was. Southwest should be able to have a fully independent economy again soon, though. Let's go to consumption. Emergency situation for the Midwest. I noticed they ran out of food because they produced consumer points. They were okay otherwise within their stockpile, but they ended up having to buy a couple of food, and they paid 1 mech each for those food. Now, the reason it was so high is in part because the Southwest said, well, you know, it's not so much, it's that you're taking my stockpiles here. I'm down to 1 now. I have, oh no, that's not food. No. I have like 5 stockpiled, but I'm going to be eating several of those this turn. So I'm at 45. You've just cut me. I have to spend 50, so that's going to be all my food. So I got to get a bonus out of this. You know, you didn't tell me ahead of time you were going to need food. And starving is bad. Paying a couple of mechs for the food is worthwhile. Finished up the final allocations for the turn here, I think. No, not the depreciation and shrinkage. I still have to do that. But some thoughts came to mind as I'm doing this. For the far west, who's kind of on their own, and this is how usually I've played, trying to make a balanced economy. You know, you've got to feed yourself. You've got to pay for any consumer points you have. Therefore, you need a fairly hefty farm sector proportionally. All right? Everything else I can kind of channel into other things. And you have sort of this balance running up where you're producing a lot of everything. He actually has this pile of excess mechs, 7 excess mechs this time, available for trade, a fuel point. He could send 5 of them somewhere and gain something. He's got to keep producing mechs because he's got this damn industrial base that he has to maintain. He can't swing that base over very easily to producing consumer points because he's not producing enough food. His food here, unless he gets a lucky roll, is only 36, whereas he has 33 people. Without much opportunity to trade, it's very hard to cope with, and you just have to produce what you can. You can produce vehicles if you want it. That would be another option, but none of it really works out. There's nothing you can do. Now, but for the Southwest, who's gotten some advantages definitely through the trade, what he's been able to do is cut down his total population in the farm sector because of the doubling factor, because of his size, so that he's now at, well, he's got 28 laborers, which is a lot. But because he's producing so much food, he's able to produce more consumer points. And he's not really focusing on the mechs there. His industry is kind of scheduled for that producing of consumer points. So he's going to be, I think, easier to push forward. Now, he's got 25 consumer points stockpiled. If he makes a decent number next turn, and doesn't trade them all away, and he doesn't lose many due to the shrinkage rules, he should be able to push this over. And then once he pushes this over, he's in kind of a golden era. But he's gotten that through I think, largely making advantageous trades. I don't feel like anybody else is on that pushover point. The Midwest is always a strong player, and he's also got a significant holding here. But again, 23 people here, no consumer points that he can put towards this. His food and fuel production don't match up well enough to do this. We are seeing some people getting stockpiling issues. Midwest was one of them, where he's actually got too much materials forming back here. These are something he can trade, of course, and already stockpiled goods don't have to be repaid for to be stockpiled. So again, deal sweeteners possibly. You could definitely see the Southwest being willing to pay some things for that, but they're most interested in the consumer points at this point. We're at the point in the game where that's going to be, it's making that leap. Now, I've never seen anybody try to make the leap forward anywhere near here. Usually it's, oh my God, it's turn 8 and I've got a plan, because otherwise turn 9 and 10 I'm just screwed. This is the closest I've seen to somebody saying, you know, I can do this part, I think, next turn. And once I make that hump, I should be there. It's not a quick thing at all. But how did he do it? He did it by essentially stealing or trading for goods that other people had as surplus, mainly mechs, and only producing, on this one focused line of the food side of things once it started becoming apparent. Now, he's got a problem though. He has no food stock. He gets a bad roll and he's screwed and has to pay off maybe with his consumer point stocks or whatever to be able to feed his people, much less not being able to actually keep running his industry on just producing consumer goods. We'll see. Anyway, it's time for shrink. All right, well, entering turn 5, and the Northeast and Far West both took big mech hits. The Far West lost 5. Now remember, they had excess ones up here, so it doesn't really hurt their current production situation. It's just would be nice not to lose things. But the Northeast lost 6, and that just wrecked their economy. I mean, they just lost 6 production off the board. Some of that they took off industrial, some of it off metal, but some had to come off food, and they're in a troubled position because of it. 6-Bex is a huge hit. I don't care where your economy is, because unless you have a stockpile of unused mechs like the Far West unfortunately does, there's not a lot you can do about taking a hit like that. It is going to floor you. The Southwest, on the other hand, lost almost nothing. I think actually they did lose nothing. The Far West lost a couple of food, which may not seem like much, but you're paying to stockpile that food. That's kind of your rainy day fund. It might be enough to help you get the boost in consumer points you need. The consumer points actually here. One of those was lost. The Southwest lost 1. Terrific value for them. I mean, getting away holding 25 of them and only losing 1 is fantastic. If you look at this sucker, 25 is the exact top of the chart. They could have lost up to 6 easily. But this, it's funny. Large food stocks dissipate a little bit more rapidly than large mech stocks. That's ugly. Well, a bad die roll results in some problems in production. Over here, the Far West only produced 32. They have 33 people. Now they have stock and enough that they can even build consumer points. So they're not in terrible shape. They're still isolated though, because I couldn't do plebiscites and I probably won't have the consumer points ever. The Northeast got a normal roll, but because of the bad mech situation, they're in a lot of trouble here. They've only got 34 food, which is what they had last time, but no consumer points backed up, no mechs in reserve, really nothing there, and they have almost no food in reserve. They have 1 stock that they managed to put in away last turn, even though they were buying goods. So it looks like, again, they're going to be relying on the Southwest to provide them with consumer points. They can feed themselves if they make consumer points, and they'll have to let the Southwest know this beforehand in terms of an order request. If they're going to make consumer goods, well, then they'll need food. Either way, they may be in trouble, though, because the Southwest is hoping on making its bump. So we may get to see what the starving rules are like. And my long time ago, buddy of mine, Lee, almost managed to win this game. Now, there's a problem. Shall we say his calculations were not always trustworthy, or mine. Worse than mine. But he had... we used to call it Lee luck. But he was a good guy to game with. But anyhow, he ended up with a situation where his people were starving that looked like he might just make the victory conditions, and that would be the only time that I've seen somebody come close, actually. Now, I've only played this maybe 3 or 4 times opposed, so it's not like it's that heavy a deal. A couple of my friends were really into it who have later turned more towards Euro games, and others who turned towards Euro games hated this game because it's nothing but bookkeeping. Even if they like heavier Euros, this was just too much for them. But I know a couple of people who really got a kick out of the challenge of this one. All right, on to trying to figure out what the secondary is going to be, negotiating. I'll have to do the Northeast first because they clearly are in need of some. As we enter into the trade round, a couple of people have some interesting pieces on the trade. I made a few more mistakes. For example, I found I had too many mechs here, so I moved another one over into that. You're not allowed to do that, but it shouldn't have been there in the first place. Well, they shouldn't be sitting there either. That's just me being easier. And you can't transfer mechs between different sectors. But I noticed, I had more mechs than sites, and my sector state's still 1 there. Now, I've got enough labor there that it's expensive for me to raise the sector state and actually fix that issue. Someone else had the same problem, and I just shifted mech and labor, which could have been done at the end of last turn, saying, you know, this game is beyond me to handle. I can't even get it right when I'm just playing 1 power in terms of keeping these things balanced. I'm finding myself making those kind of errors. Or I found myself making those kind of errors in this kind of bookkeeping heavy game. And it's just kind of like, well, what do you want me to do? You want me to just take the losses as if it is, or can I go back and fix this? And eventually, it starts happening every goddamn turn. Which is a reason I shouldn't play a game like this with other people. But it's no fun alone at all. It's miserable alone. Now, looking over at so the other thing that you can do, though, is you can build plants. And both the Southwest and the Far West have done so. They've picked up plants in their production. Oh, this guy was legitimate. He's got 14 sites. Let me shift that back. That was like this. That's how I had it. I just didn't see the 10. And I mean, it's that kind of screw up, constantly having to read these indistinguishable charts of counters. Not that it would be terribly good if it was all on a spreadsheet either. This is just not a fun thing to do, even if some of the decisions that it allows you to make are fun. Anyway, the Far West actually really does need a plant, because another site lets them put another mech in place. The Southwest seriously is running into problems because of their number of sites. Now, industrial sites, they only have 6. They're the lowest on the board, and you can see they've got a lot of labor committed to it. They're allowed to go up to 18 labor, 3 times their sites, but their mechs are going to barrel out at 6. So in both cases, building an extra plant is a useful thing. And what you do, the Southwest, both sides are going to keep theirs, I think. Great. All right, these are in this baggie. There's these little markers, and I'm going to put one of these on the board somewhere in the Southwest's territory, and then it just ups, the number of sites available. And that's it. And then if that area somehow disassociates or whatever, it's got a site with it. Now I've got to negotiate out the trades. Now, the Southwest isn't the only one who built lots and lots of consumer points. Actually, everyone did except the Northeast. The Far West built a lot. Now, they're not going to be involved in trading, but they're looking at, I got to get my sector states up. Building nothing but mechs isn't helping me, although I keep losing them anyway. But over here with the Midwest, they also built a lot of them and may be interested in trading them to the Northeast. What that's going to do is depress the value that consumer points have on the market, because both people will be bidding, saying, hey, I'll take a little less. I can work with this. But what it doesn't do is give the Midwest the same kind of advantage that the Southwest had as being the only guy providing the consumer goods. So the opening offer of 4 mechs for 4 consumer points got cut down to 3 mechs for 4 consumer points. However you want to look at that. No cash changing hands. Basically, the Midwest was willing to offer, hey, I could give you 4 consumer points for 3 mechs. He wasn't willing to go any lower than that, because he kind of likes both. He just doesn't like seeing the Southwest getting this advantage. And the Southwest, however, had agreed to build these for the Northeast. So it would kind of be a shafting to not do that. And the Midwest is like, it's okay, I'm just really trying to get you a better deal, honestly. I'm good either way. So now we go to the consumption phase. And I don't know, things look like they're going very, very well for the Southwest, being able to get the advantage in a couple of deals. Even this one isn't bad. Far West didn't cut any deals. They've got their factory there. Nobody's really terribly interested in their overage of mechs. There's not much that anyone can offer them. It costs 90 movement points to go there. It'll cost an extra fuel for any trade that's involved, and somebody's got to pay that fuel. Nobody wants to get rid of mechs. Everybody, people might have things to go for. Let's see if the Midwest can, or the Southwest for that matter. I've got extra points left here. So I've got 35 consumer points. Both people have additional fuel. Well, no, they have to burn that for the trade, for their normal internal trade. Some people have some additional though, don't they? Yeah, the Northeast has additional fuel, so they could actually trigger some sort of trade here. But they don't have anything that they could give that the Far West really wants. The Far West actually has output and everything additional already. It's that their industrial sector got kind of fried a little bit. So it's going to look pretty hard for the Far West to be able to trade away some of these mechs. And I think they can use them all this turn. I'm not sure. They haven't been able to before. But I think with this extra site, that only adds 1 to what I can throw there. This is full up. This is full up, but I could increase the sector state and start producing more fuel. The big problem is I don't have the 18 consumer points that I need to get the farm sector up. So I can just stockpile mechs, hope that they don't all rust, and like I'm stockpiling consumer points. Once I make it over the hump, I'll have a whole bunch to throw in at once. And then my food will be in very good shape. Which, for example, the Southwest, which is going to make it over the hump, isn't going to be in that good a shape. I only have 7 mechs to add. So that's going to be 7 additional food. I think I'm going to want to throw it into food, but I may be pulling labor out of there and moving it elsewhere, so that the cost of maintaining that higher food farm sector goes down, and then I can start moving things into other sectors. I don't know though, because I already have this sector that I have to pay. This is one of the problems. I have 28 here plus 5 is 33. Oh no. 34, 35, 36 consumer points. So yeah, I don't have any more to spend. Those 4 consumer points were the maximum I could give. And does the far west, or does the Midwest, are they willing to trade for mech? See, their problem is they don't have access to a waterway. So they'd have to deal through someone else, and that probably is an additional tax. When you add the fuel cost in, it's just not going to happen. If we could get next to each other, it would. Here's the great problem. Every time that I've managed to make it, now I've never managed to make it this early. That may be a good sign. I may recover. The next turn, I don't have it anymore. I didn't have enough mechs to throw in to do it. So I count my likely food production, and it's 20, 50, 62 points. 62 points, well, 50 of them I need. So that leaves me with 12 points. 12 points of food means I'll be able to do 6 sets of these. And I managed to drop my capacity down to 18. That's exactly what I need to do just to break even there. Okay, that's all I've got then. I need to move more people. How many of these do I have? I have 5 of these in stock. I can drop another person here. I have tons of capacity. I have 21 capacity, I think. And I can pull someone off fuel. Not that that counts against me, but I can't pull a food person out. And that'll give me another labor and another point of capacity. Let's go up to 20. Because I need to be able to build some mechs to not fall behind here. So I'm right at the edge, right? If everything goes right, I'll still fail. This is why. I need 27 food. Well, first I need the 50 food. I have 12 left. The 12 will get me 30 points of that stuff. 5 is base. Well, let's see. 27, 28, 29 if I drop this down and don't take all the mechs the turn afterwards. But I'm already decreasing my production then. 29, 30, 31. I'm 1 sharp from doing it. Now, maybe I can produce some mechs and get a consumer good off of that. Maybe I'll get lucky and roll a 10 through 12 and be able to produce enough food that I can keep my sector state up there. But that's it. That's the only chance. And this is what I'm used to happening on turn 9 is I save up and I boost to that. On the other hand, I've got some nice tax revenue here. 20% of 120 gave me 24 bucks. But yeah, it does not look very likely. It looks like the chances of depreciation and shrinkage and such not are going to cut into whatever I have, so that maybe I'd need those extra mechs that I can produce next turn, which is why I upped my industrial sectors so that I can produce a few mechs. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen. And other people are kind of being nice by not playing their wads of corruption from making me go over. Because in some senses, if I make it over, for the far west, they don't care. They're not near me. But if the southwest makes it over, he can help other people into the same position. Not so much the far west, though. But that hump has not been crossed yet. It felt like it was going to, but I knew there was a good chance this would happen. Now, I could have calculated it all out and said, I can't make it. I got to save another turn. So I have 2 turns of savings to rely on to go through this. But you know what? It's just too hard. It really is. This is a game that has military aspects and everything else. It's supposed to be this conquest of North America, and it's too damn hard to just make it through the game without being a loser. Anyway, on. And I think we're at the end of turn 5, on to turn 6. And for the Northeast, they were able to allocate all the mechs. I kind of knew they would. That fills up their compartment. They've improved their capacity. Their capacity's been lagging for the whole of the game. Not quite turn 6. I got to do the depreciation. God, I hate that. It kills me. It's the bad luck event of the game. But anyway, since I'm chatting, the Midwest is looking at the situation Southwest got themselves in and said, I guess I need more padding. Well, Northeast lost 5 more mechs this turn, again grinding them down. But, remember how I said it was a close run thing? The Southwest lost 7. I don't think they can do it now. One of them was off industrial production. They kept all the stuff they have in the farm sector, but basically they have no mechs left in the fuel or metal sector. Now that may not be so terrible. They have some stockpiled goods there. That means they can drop their sector state by 1 here. That's going to cost them significantly less. I was already down pretty low with just 2 guys there, but then it also I don't know. Beyond that, I don't know. So it may not be a complete negative, but it really hammered what was already looking like a pretty questionable situation. So we're probably not going to see them keep their way over the hump this time. Usually, though, it's turn 8 or 9 where the hump fails. Well, actually 9 or 10. You make it over the hump and then you just can't stay there. And you got to be there for 2 turns at the end of the game. Now you assume if you can hold it for 2 turns, unless it's just savings, which Green may be trying to do, is save up and just try to, that's one way to do it. Stockpile a bunch of consumer goods, get yourself up to social state 2 for 2 consecutive turns and say, hey, I won. My economy is dead after this. I mean, I saved the whole game to be able to do this, but I won. I'm afraid we're getting very close to the end of this game just because I think everybody's chance has just been wiped out. We had one of the worst sets of rolls that I've ever seen in this game for food production. But going beyond them, everybody was running it close to the edge. The only way that I can see getting over the hump in this game is to not leave any padding and stretch it as hard as you can and help each other. Well, the Northeast, by which I mean try to work out mutually advantageous trades. But the Northeast, they're okay. 36, that's enough food that they can run their economy on. That was a natural roll for them. But a minus 20% for the Midwest, that's 37. They have 39 people. They have no food stocks. Significant consumer stocks. But okay, now they got to find food. That might be hard to do because we know that the Southwest is building up their consumer points this turn. That's their only way to keep forward. They ended up with a minus 10%. Same amount of food as last time, 56. I think a minus 10%. That's enough to feed themselves. But it sure ain't enough to keep their economy running where it was. So they're definitely slipping down. And that means they're going to have to do stockpiling this turn and the next, maybe turn 8 too, and try to run for a 9-10 victory. Maybe. At least they're not starving, which is what it looks like might be the case elsewhere. Now 56 is okay. I do have 6 extra food, which the food output for the 37, that means I need 2, and over here And I might be able to command good prices for this food. Over here, although starving people aren't quite as bad if you lose the areas, but they have to be at the end of the game when you're trying to score. The Far West only produced 29 food. That was a minus 20% effect. They've got 33 people. They need 4 more food. There is enough food in the system, but is the Southwest going to be offered enough to keep people from starving? I don't think so. And probably it's not going to be worth their while to do it in the Far West. So I think we're going to start seeing some real issues and the collapse of some of the things, which is kind of fun, except that I have to look up the rules for all that. All right, let's go on to secondary production and see what the Southwest needs, whether it can save any food. Well, see, the problem is that's the big question. Without the trade round, without the offer on the table, without everybody having their calculations more or less set, it's hard to tell what I want to do with the Southwest. But it's clear that there's 6 food that's needed and that I have 6 extra food. What's not clear is what kind of offer I'm going to be made for it and whether it's at all to my advantage to try to help these people. Southwest decides to be selfish here, and they spend their 6 extra food to produce consumer points. That gets them 10 consumer points. That doesn't make sense. It's only 2 food per. I got another. Hold on. Let's reduce our max. Another utilization. Another fuel. It's going to cut into my stocks there. I lost so many mechs that I was in trouble. Actually, I got 5 more consumer points. I don't need mechs, I need consumer points. Could I have bought some from the Midwest for my food? Maybe, but I need my utilization too. 3.6, I owe 3 more bucks. Okay, so actually I bought 3 sets of consumer points, which with 6 food, which is what it should be. And hopefully I've marked that down. I'm not too aware right now. Yeah, it looks like I did. So I've got 15 consumer points. That's not enough to keep my farm labor in place though, which means I'm going to have a huge amount of excess max. I may have to reallocate my my entire sector. Basically, my economy just collapsed, and everyone else's is in trouble for other reasons. All right, so secondary production's done, and the Northeast had a couple extra food available. They decided not to produce consumer points. Thinking of a trade, I can give you a couple of food, you give me the consumer points that I need to keep myself running if I need them, but primarily I need some mechs. Mechs have become very cheap on the market because of the drop in food. So the Northeast needs, I think, a few consumer points, but mainly they need to replenish some of their mechs. They actually, oh no, they're going to trade food for consumer points. Yeah. But maybe they can get mechs as well. Basically, they need to boost some of their sectors a little bit, and they needed the extra consumer points for that. Now, they're not going to get enough that they can feed this 18 consumer point farm sector and throw a lot of mechs in there. We're only talking a couple of food they're giving here. Probably no more than 5 consumer points are going to change hands for that. And that's the amount of consumer points you could get off of 2 food. So the idea is, well, you don't have to produce it. Now, you can see they have a problem with underutilization of their industry. That means they're going to have to reduce their capacity, which means, do they have to lay people off? Not necessarily, and you don't want to. Basically, they can close down some of their industrialization by shutting off some of their mechs. That's the safer way to go. If you actually lay people off, it's very, very bad in this game. Unlike real, like the U.S. modern time, where laying off bunches of workers works fine. Over here, so he's counting on that food, and I already calculated the Southwest out. You can see his utilization has dropped too. He also has mechs, so he should be okay. And his economy is actually churning along at an okay level, except he's not going to be able to maintain that level 2 sector state over in farm, which means a lot of his mechs go out, which means he just sinks back down to where everybody else is, essentially. Because the only bonus he had was having made it, he could make enough food and had enough mechs, etc., that he could kind of boost himself to the second level, maybe, but only if he could keep that payment up, and that was really, really in doubt anyway. But it's definitely not going to happen. I mean, there's no one to trade with. The Far West has the interesting situation. He had to starve, or has to starve, when we get to the food payout. And he's actually made full utilization of his capacity, and he has 21 extra mechs waiting. Nobody wants them, terribly much. However, he may be able to make an interesting offer to the Northeast. I don't know. He probably doesn't have the excess fuel kicking around. Yeah, he does. It's quite a bit. We also have people building extra vehicles. And, of course, this can take a one-way trip someplace and then just drop off there. And they could carry stuff in trade as well. Okay, so somewhat depressing when you start looking at it. Down to Sector State 1 across the board with the Southwest. And you can kind of look the drop in the tax rates. Everybody's got them, but we're back to where we were 2 turns ago after that huge boost. Whereas, others, actually Far West slowly dropping here over a couple. Income dropping here in the Midwest. Only the Northeast is improving. And here my cheating is kind of beginning to get ridiculous. Not, in terms of necessarily affecting the game, but in terms of affecting it as a simulation. These 21 mechs here, I got no use for them anywhere. Nobody wants them. Mechs are cheap right now, and nobody has anything they can trade. So I've got loads and loads of mechs, yet they're not assigned to anything. But you see, here's the problem. If you assign them to a sector, you can no longer trade them. So let's say these are tractors. If I assign them to a sector and say that they are tractors in the farm sector, I should be able to sell them to other people eventually. I shouldn't have to reposition them into the sector. But the other problem is these had to be made kind of to order for the needs of this turn. So, what you need for the farm sector is different from what you need from the fuel and what you need for the metal. So I feel like you should have to assign them, but then be able to still trade these types of equipment. Anyway, everybody's got extra mechs except the Southwest. They actually broke even here. Well, they've got a ton of extra ones on their farm sector. They can't get rid of them. Who wants to buy a used tractor, you don't send them to other sections of the country, I guess. But in this kind of spirit of economic calamity, I would think maybe that would work. Worse, we have an extra plant here. Now, this is really problematic because basically the Midwest doesn't need a plant. I built one. Should I have to assign it? Yeah, if I'm being, at all of a simulation realist here, that plant had to be built somewhere. But I don't really want to screw it over. I want to leave some trade opportunity available. So again, I'm cheating the game a little bit here as a simulation by allowing that to remain. Over here in the Northeast, actually, well, we got room for more mechs here, but we're going to be losing capacity, so there'll be unused mechs anyway, I guess, unless I invest my way out of that. And everywhere else, I'm pretty much up to stock with my mechs. So I don't have any more leeway either. The high industrial production capacities are great at producing mechs, but you need to produce the food to produce other things. Mechs mechs and transport, you can kind of say, oh, I know how much I can make. And transport's growing too. I mean, I got like 4 of them here, 4 of them here, only 1 there and 1 there. But there are people who've chosen to burn an extra fuel resource in with their mech production just to build some transport points. Transport points are more mobile. You can always kind of reassign them. Alright. Anyway, I think we're done with the consumption side of things. Nobody can do anything politically. That puts us to the finance round. And that's where we're going to start seeing problems. First of which is political disassociation. I'll be back in a moment because the far west has to face that. Okay, so I have 4 starving population. And what I do is, let's find this, the starvation table. My total areas is 1 to 10. Starving labor points to poor areas goes to the highest it can on the chart. So I'm going to lose areas on here. Now, why does the die roll go up to 8? That's a good question. Increasing the resulting number by is regional social state -1. So I don't have to add to anything. So if you've got starving people, but you've managed to keep your overall social state good, you're more likely to start losing areas there. Okay, so I'll roll an unmodified because my social state, maybe it's, wait, you add, right? Yeah. Add the resulting number by regional social state -1. My regional social state is 0 according to this, but I don't believe that. It is 1. So I have no modifier. And so on a 4, 5, or 6, I'm going to lose an area. Oops. I do so. So now I got to pick an area. I can pick any old area I like, and this isn't too terrible. But whatever area I pick, the far west is rather rich. All their areas have stuff in it. So now the question is, well, what stuff can I afford to lose? I could conceivably afford to lose some industrial capacity, better than anything else probably. So I'm going to take a loss here. That loses me 1 industrial site. And it just goes from good to nothing. I believe I lose the transport point there. Whoops. I got plenty of those. And now my population goes down. I can get rid of 4 starving people. That's easy. Everywhere else, I kind of like what I'm doing. I'm going to actually cut my food laborers again by 1. And then I have to note on my sheet of paper that my population is down to 28. Whee! In the far west, due to labor shortages, whatnot, industrial capacity has actually dropped way down from 19 to 14. So next term, we're not going to have the same kind of industrial churn that we've been having. But we have tons and tons of mechs. So our only real goal here is to try to break the level before those mechs go away, because we can flood the market with them and then produce lots and lots of food with them. Or enough food to buy consumer points. I hope. Starving your people can be the way to get into the bonus area. As you can see, this has actually improved the Far West's opportunities in some ways because my total labor in the farm sector is low now. Yet I'm fully mechanized. The question is, do I have enough to feed myself and then some? So I have 30 points. I'm not really that rich in this. I can't use these extra mechs. So maybe by starving my people another turn, I can get up there. But I'm not saving points really that I'll be able to produce large quantities of consumer points the way the Southwest was able to. If I was in that position, I would be able to do this. But if I choose not to feed my people, I can disassociate more areas and maybe make my way up. And maybe actually win the game, although a lot smaller. The great leap forward. Over here in the Southwest, I've got a problem, which is that I didn't utilize all my capacity. Normally we've been seeing 100% utilization. That gives you a capacity 1 point increase before you go into the investment and taxation. In this case though, I've got some depression on the market, so I actually lose half the difference, which is probably okay. If I figure out the rest of it, I'm probably fine there. I only have 20 build capacity in place here, only. So a growth of 2 at this point is not too hard to do, if I can manage it in other sectors as well. There's not really much else I can do here. And we make it to turn 7, and not a lot of loss after this. Some mechs that were surplus anyway, or other minor losses that really didn't cost much, or that there were replacements for. Seeing what happened over in the Far West, I'm beginning to think that my good buddy Lee, who, in addition to tremendous luck, especially in games with lots of hidden information, also had a good analytical mind and would figure something like that out. So I could see him coming to the only way I can do this is to starve my people. I hate doing that. I've been trying to see a way other than that through it, but it really does look like the way to get over the hump. You want some population to begin with. You need it to kind of kickstart you and build you towards things. You want some diversity of location because you need the sites that they provide. So you need a certain size country, and if you play there's a version where you start with just one territory and expand. You still want to expand, I think, but then expanding gives you the ability to starve your people and throw off population base. So it may just be that this starting power situation of power is enough to get you to where you need to be if you throw off some areas. I find that very, very dissatisfying, though, if that is the only way to go ahead in this game. But, I've tried playing conservatively. You don't make it. I've been trying to play it at the edge. Luck eventually catches up to you, and even your trading partners will eventually get bad luck too at the same time, and everything just collapses as it has on this turn. So there's one remaining option. And it really is looking that way. All right, this one's going up.